Just before the end of the World War II in 1945, the United States of America detonated bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. 120,000 civilians and soldiers were killed immediately, and tens of thousands of people died in the following days due to the exposure to the radiation. These bombs were the earliest and the least dangerous form of the nuclear weapons. Ever since, more and more advanced nuclear weapons have been invented and tested, but not a single bomb had been used in a direct armed conflict due to their destructive consequences. These bombs are very tiny compared to what we are going to talk about, the TSAR BOMBA. As the Second World War ended, the US and the Soviet Union entered half a century-long Cold War, a war of politics, science and nuclear weapons. The US was successful to test its first nuclear weapons in the 1945. The Soviet Union, however, made their nuclear weapon in 1949, which was almost equivalent in the explosion power to the nuclear weapon dropped on Nagasaki. But the Soviets were still far behind the American nuclear program because the Americans were working on to develop a hydrogen bomb. In 1952, the Americans successfully tested the first hydrogen bomb named Ivy Mike, which was much more powerful than the ones dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, having a blast yield of 10.4 megatons or 10,040,000 tons of TNT. To put into perspective, the energy released by the explosion of the Ivy Mike was equal to the energy released upon the explosion of 10.4 million tons of TNT. 2 years later, in 1954, the Americans tested another hydrogen bomb named Kesselbra on the Marshall Islands, which yielded 15 megatons of TNT and is still up to this date the largest nuclear weapon ever tested by the United States of America. The explosion was so huge that the nuclear fallout exposed inhabitants of the islands to a significant amount of the radiation, as far as 300 miles from the detonation site. This hydrogen bomb was 1,000 times more powerful than the one dropped on Hiroshima. The Soviets quickly responded by testing their first true hydrogen bomb, the RDS-37, in the year 1955. The bomb, however, was much weaker than its American counterpart, with a blast yield of just 3 megatons of TNT. But it paved a way for the Soviets to develop an unmatched weapon in the human history. To show their nuclear capabilities, the Soviet Union exploded their mighty TSAR BOMBA on 30 October 1961 over the island of Novaya Zemlya in the Russian Arctic Sea. The bomb, weighing 27,000 kilograms, was so massive that the doors and the fuel tanks of the plane in which the bomb was carried were removed. It was attached to 800 kilograms massive parachute and was dropped by the Russian T-95 plane at the height of 11 kilometers and was detonated 4 kilometers above the ground, so that the bomber had time to escape the site of the detonation. When the bomb exploded, the plane was still in the air at a distance of 160 kilometers from the explosion site. But still, a mushroom cloud could be seen from the plane. Even more surprisingly, the fireball was also seen from as far as 1,000 kilometers. The detonation was so intense that the bomber plummeted in the air and glass windows of the plane were shattered. However, the bomber regained control and safely landed 270 kilometers away. The energy of the explosion was so unimaginably high that the shockwave circled 3 times around the earth and shattered windows as far as Finland and Norway, and caused an earthquake of 5 on the Richter scale around the world. Most of the buildings and the houses within the island were destroyed. Radio communications were disrupted for almost an hour. The explosion created 8 kilometers wide fireball and the mushroom cloud reached as high as 70 kilometers above the ground. That's over 7 times the height of the Mount Everest. The bomb was initially scheduled to be 100 megatons, which would have put the bomb roughly 7,000 times more powerful than Hiroshima and would have caused severe nuclear fallout. That is why the blast yield of the bomb was reduced to 50 megatons for the test, which was still 4 times as powerful as the successfully tested American Kesselbra bomb of 15 megatons and 2 times more powerful than America's most powerful bomb, the B-41, which have blast yield up to 25 megatons. However, this bomb was not available at the time of the test of the TSAR BOMBA. Now let's talk about the name of the bomb. The Tsar was related to the large Russian objects such as the Tsar bell and the Tsar cannon. Also, the Tsar in the Russian language means king, so the TSAR BOMBA simply means the king of bombs, and it truly is the king of bombs, as we have discussed earlier in the video. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next video.